Hello there, welcome back. Isn't it funny when you do videos and they're not in any order at all, but then when you place them in your playlist, it looks like you've done them in a particular order. So I have been reading you excerpts from my book, God Loves Children, and I have done them all, and I did them ages ago, but I never did the introduction. So even though this is really the first excerpt, it's actually the last one I'm actually going to do on this book. Now, the title, God Loves Children, it isn't about God's passion for children in general. It's more about how God often uses children to speak to us. He uses crazy little scenarios that really touch our hearts and help us to realize a spiritual truth, a way of thinking that we should be thinking, or just reminds us of his love for us all in general, whether we're kids or not. And all the stories are true stories about certain encounters I had, all involving children, and in two of the stories I am the child myself, well, the teenager. So I'm going to read you the introduction now, and I hope you like it. And if you do like the sound of what I've described, you've already got the playlist. So you can just have a look at the subjects on the thumbnails and see which one appeals to you the most. Okay, so this is the introduction. I stood in the bus station awaiting my coach to London. A middle-aged man in a checkered flat cap and long beige raincoat plonked his suitcases down next to mine and began talking to me about the impending journey. Underneath his raincoat was a smart tweed jacket and trousers that had crisp vertical folds running down the middle, looking so sharp that I'm sure one could use them as a guillotine blade. He had a posh southern accent reminiscent of somebody who has spent their weekends dining with the Queen. His friendly, jolly manner made me warm to him, and we chatted happily for several minutes. Two toddlers were running around the waiting area while their parents sat together on the metal benches. All of a sudden, the man glared at the tots and grimaced. Eyes that once displayed joviality narrowed like they were peering through blurred binoculars. His once mellow tone changed to a gravelly, fearful voice as he leant towards my ear and whispered, "I'm going to wait and see where those children sit, and then choose a seat as far away from them as possible. I hate bloody kids." "You were one once," I mused. "That's why I hate them," he retorted. "I prefer dogs." He's not alone. Many people would indeed prefer to be in the company of a canine rather than a child, but I wondered what triggered this irrational fear in such a distinguished English gentleman. Were his school years plagued with bullies? Did he come from a large, boisterous family where there were not enough rooms to retreat to his own space? Observing his guilty glance towards the ceiling encouraged me to assume a different theory. He had been the tormentor, the annoying little brother, the stroppy older sibling, or the irritating infant whose bad behaviour tested the nerves of every adult who crossed his path. Yes, no doubt he was remembering what he had been like, and maybe up until now he felt he hadn't suffered full retribution for his past felonies. This was the time, he pondered, that the gates would be swung open wide and a torrent of torture will pour down on him in the way of these two children, who will turn into little imps as soon as he sits down near them. I watched the youngest child fling a Jelly Tots packet to the floor and push his sister out of the way so that he could be next to his mother. He then extended his forefinger and shoved it so far up his tiny nose that I'm sure I spotted the fingernail protruding out of his left eye. Maybe this man's fears were justified. But people, no matter how undesirable they may seem while in their juvenile years, can reform beautifully. My travelling companion may well have been a tiny terror, but hadn't he resisted the urge to pull my hair, stick chewing gum under the seats, cough in my face and wipe his runny nose across the length of his tweed jacket? He possessed a handkerchief which he used. He possessed good manners which he used also. People change, and those who appear to not look like they will ever reform have the potential to change just as much. No matter what negative opinions you may have towards the youngest people of our planet, God loves them immensely and sees the end from the beginning. He doesn't just see the dross, but the beauty lying beneath it. Although this book is not about what God thinks about children in its entirety, they are the influence and inspiration behind it. Most of the accounts are true stories or based on real-life events that have occurred, all of which involve children. It fascinates me how often God uses these precious little ones to speak to our hearts, even if some of them aren't so small anymore. So whether you are a parent of a small child, a parent whose kids are now grown, childless, or not yet an adult yourself, I would like to invite you to sit back and enjoy the tales that have been born out of experiences with these wonderful beings who, although not yet fully developed in stature and brain, are very significant to God because He cherishes them dearly. Thank you for that. So just to remind you, that was the introduction to my book, God Loves Children, and I have read all the excerpts, well, full chapters of my book to you already, and they are on that playlist with that title. So grab a cup of coffee, go ahead and find your favourite story, and please let me know what your favourite story is, and if there's anything that resonates with you, please tell me your stories in the comments also, so we can have a good laugh. Okay, take care, see you soon, bye bye.